Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of our future dives. Today we're taking a deep dive into a topic that's super important for anyone interested in Indian society politics, and especially for those of you gearing up for the UPSC exams. We're talking about communal violence in India. Whether you're a student, a concerned citizen, or just someone who wants to understand the complexities of our world, well, this deep dive is for you. We're going to unpack the causes, the legal framework, and the strategies for prevention, all based on some really insightful research. And to help us navigate this complex and sensitive landscape, we have our expert with us today, whose ability to connect the dots and provide context is truly remarkable.
It's great to be here. Communal violence is a really challenging issue that demands our attention, and I'm glad we're taking the time to really delve into it.
All right, so let's paint a picture here. Imagine a country as diverse as India with its vibrant tapestry of religions, languages, and cultures. But this very diversity, while a source of immense strength, also makes India susceptible to communal violence. Our source, communal violence, causes, legal provisions, and preventative measures, defines it as violence that goes beyond just individual acts targeting victims based solely on their religious or ethnic identity. It's about groups clashing fueled by a sense of us versus them. Think of the horrific riots that have scarred our nation's history, leaving behind pain, distrust, and a fractured social fabric.
Exactly. And what makes India particularly vulnerable is this incredible mix of identities. Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, and countless other groups all coexisting within a single nation. This complexity just adds layers to an already sensitive issue.
So let's dig into the why. What are the factors that lead to these eruptions of violence? Well, our source highlights that it's not a single cause, but a web of interconnected historical, socioeconomic, political, and even psychological factors. Think back to the British Raj. Their infamous divide and rule policy deliberately heightened religious tensions to solidify their control. And unfortunately, the echoes of that strategy still resonate in present-day India, adding fuel to the fire of communalism.
It's like a wound that never fully healed, and certain events or political maneuvers can easily reopen those old scars.
Absolutely. Now layer on top of that the socioeconomic realities of India. Poverty, unemployment, and unequal access to resources create fertile ground for frustration and resentment. And politicians sometimes exploit these anxieties, often resorting to what's known as vote bank politics. They appeal to specific religious communities to secure votes, further deepening communal divides for their own political gain. And then there's the role of inflammatory speeches. Sadly, we've seen how powerful words can incite hatred and fear, pushing people towards violence. It's a dangerous cocktail of rhetoric and raw emotions.
It's crucial to recognize that while economic and political factors play a significant role, communal violence isn't just about material deprivation or political manipulation. There's a psychological dimension as well.
That's a great point. Our source delves into how conflicting ideologies, fear, and even identity crises within communities can escalate tensions. Imagine a minority group constantly facing prejudice and discrimination. That sense of fear and insecurity can breed resentment and in extreme cases contribute to a climate ripe for violence.
It's a vicious cycle, really. Fear breeds mistrust, which can lead to further isolation and marginalization, making peaceful coexistence even more challenging.
And then we have the modern-day accelerant social media. Fake news, rumors, and hate speech spread like wildfire online, often with devastating consequences. Our source cites a chilling example, mob lynching, particularly cow vigilantism. These acts often stem from deep-seated communal tensions magnified by misinformation circulating online. It's a stark reminder of how technology can be weaponized to incite violence.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? The same technology that connects us can also be used to spread hatred and division. It's a wake-up call for all of us to be more discerning consumers of information, to critically evaluate what we see online, and to challenge misinformation whenever we encounter it. Welcome back to our deep dive into communal violence in India. Before we move forward, it's important to remember that while we're dissecting a serious issue, our goal is to understand it, not to perpetuate fear or negativity. Knowledge is power, and by understanding the complexities of this problem, we can better equip ourselves to be part of the solution.
That's exactly right. We've laid out some of the root causes, and now I'm curious about the laws. Does India have a legal framework in place to combat this kind of violence?
Absolutely. The Indian Constitution is a powerful document that enshrines the values of secularism, equality, and justice. It lays the groundwork for protecting the rights of all citizens regardless of their religion. Our source, Communal Violence, Causes, Legal Provisions, and Preventative Measures, points to several key articles that directly address communal harmony.
Okay, so let's get specific. What are some of these articles, and how do they work in practice?
Well, for example, Article 25 guarantees freedom of conscience and the right to practice any religion. Think about it. This right is fundamental in a diverse society like India. Then you have Article 26, which allows religious denominations to manage their own affairs. This recognizes the autonomy of different religious groups within the larger framework of the nation.
So the Constitution acknowledges the importance of religious freedom while also setting some ground rules for peaceful coexistence. What else?
Article 29 is another crucial one. It protects citizens from discrimination based on religion, race, caste, language, or any other ground. This is vital for ensuring equal treatment under the law and preventing any form of exclusion or marginalization.
So far, so good. But I'm guessing it's not always smooth sailing when it comes to putting these principles into practice.
That's true. While the Constitution provides a strong foundation, translating those ideals into reality can be challenging. Implementation depends on various factors, including the political will, the efficiency of law enforcement agencies, and the overall social climate.
Our source also mentions Article 30, which grants minorities the right to establish and administer their own educational institutions. That sounds like a way to preserve cultural and religious identity within a diverse nation.
Exactly. It's about recognizing and respecting the unique needs of different communities. And then there's Article 51A, which outlines the fundamental duties of every citizen. One of these duties is to promote harmony and brotherhood amongst all Indians, transcending religious, linguistic, and regional or sectional diversities.
That's a powerful statement. It's like a call to action for every citizen to actively contribute to a peaceful and inclusive society. But beyond the Constitution, are there any specific laws that deal with communal violence?
Yes, the Indian Penal Code, or IPC, has several sections that address crimes related to communal hatred and violence. Sections 153A and 153B, for instance, deal with promoting enmity between different groups and making imputations assertions prejudicial to national integration. These are legal tools that can be used to punish those who incite violence or spread hatred.
It sounds like India has a fairly comprehensive legal framework in place. But laws are only effective if they're enforced right. What about the implementation and enforcement of these laws?
That's where things get a bit more complex. There have been instances where implementation has been slow or inconsistent, leading to a sense of impunity among perpetrators. This highlights the need for not just strong laws, but also a robust and impartial justice system that ensures swift and fair trials for those accused of communal violence.
Our source also mentions a push for enacting the Communal Violence, Prevention, Control, and Rehabilitation of Victims. Bill 2005. What's the significance of this bill?
This bill aims to provide a more comprehensive and specific legal framework for preventing and responding to communal violence. It includes provisions for speedy trials, compensation for victims, and measures to prevent the spread of rumors and hate speech. While it hasn't yet been enacted, it reflects an ongoing effort to strengthen the legal mechanisms for addressing this complex issue.
So it's a work in progress, but at least there's a recognition that existing laws may need to be strengthened or refined.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that the legal framework is only one part of the solution. We need to address the root causes, promote social harmony, and build a culture of tolerance and respect.
Right, so we've covered the causes and the laws, but what about prevention? Is it even possible to prevent something as deeply rooted and complex as communal violence?
It's undoubtedly a challenging task, but our source argues that prevention is not only possible, but absolutely essential. And the key, they say, is a multi-pronged approach. Think of it like a web of interconnected strategies, each targeting a different aspect of the problem.
That makes sense. So where do we even begin? What are some of the key strategies for prevention?
Our source breaks it down into 5 broad categories. Preventative measures in general measures when violence is anticipated measures, during violence technological measures, and post-violence measures.
Okay, that's a helpful framework. Let's start with preventative measures in general. What does that look like in practice?
Well, one of the most fundamental strategies is promoting interfaith dialogue and understanding. Imagine creating spaces where people from different religious backgrounds can come together, share their beliefs, and learn from one another. This can help break down stereotypes and build bridges of empathy.
It's like taking the us versus them mentality and turning it into a we're all in this together approach.
Exactly. And education plays a huge role here. We need to equip young people with the critical thinking skills and the historical context to understand the dangers of communalism. Imagine a curriculum that celebrates India's diverse heritage, teaching children to respect different cultures and religions from a young age.
That's so crucial. Education isn't just about facts and figures. It's about shaping values and fostering a sense of shared humanity.
And let's not forget the power of storytelling. Sharing personal narratives and experiences can be incredibly powerful in humanizing the other and breaking down barriers. Imagine a platform where people from different communities can share their stories, their hopes, and their fears. This can create a space for empathy and understanding.
It's like saying, hey, we may have different beliefs, but we're all human beings at the end of the day, and we share the same basic desires for peace, security, and a good life.
Absolutely. And then there's the role of community policing. This involves building trust and collaboration between law enforcement agencies and the communities they serve. Imagine police officers who are trained to be sensitive to the needs of different religious groups, who engage with local communities, and who work proactively to prevent tensions from escalating.
So it's about moving away from a purely reactive approach to a more proactive and preventative model of policing.
Precisely. It's not just about the police. We need to empower communities to take ownership of their own peace and security. Our source highlights the importance of peace committees, which bring together representatives from different religious groups to resolve disputes and address local concerns.
So it's about creating spaces for dialogue and conflict resolution at the grassroots level. But what about situations where violence is anticipated, like during religious festivals or political rallies? How do we prevent those simmering tensions from boiling over?
That's where early intervention becomes crucial. Our source talks about preventative measures like increasing police visibility in sensitive areas, deploying rapid response teams, and even imposing curfews if necessary. It's about sending a clear message that violence will not be tolerated.
So it's about being prepared and having a plan in place to respond swiftly and decisively to any potential threats. But let's face it, sometimes despite our best efforts, violence does erupt. What then?
Well, in those critical moments, the priority is containing the violence, protecting lives, and restoring order. This involves a coordinated effort between law enforcement agencies, medical personnel, and even community leaders. Our source emphasizes the need for clear protocols and trained personnel who can respond effectively to riots and other forms of violence.
So it's about having a well-oiled machine that can swing into action when needed, minimizing damage and preventing the situation from spiraling out of control. But I'm guessing it's not just about brute force. How do we ensure that the response is sensitive to the needs of the affected communities?
That's a crucial point. The response needs to be firm, but also fair and impartial. It's about upholding the law while also respecting the dignity of all individuals involved. Our source stresses the importance of avoiding excessive force, ensuring that all victims receive medical attention, and providing support to those who have been displaced or traumatized.
It's about restoring order without resorting to actions that could further inflame tensions or create new grievances. And then there's the role of the media. How do we prevent them from sensationalizing the violence or further polarizing communities?
That's a huge challenge. The media has a responsibility to report accurately and responsibly, avoiding inflammatory language or images that could exacerbate tensions. Our source suggests working with media outlets to promote responsible reporting, fact-checking, and even offering training on covering communal violence in a sensitive and nuanced manner.
It's about recognizing that the media can be a powerful tool for either peace or conflict, and ensuring that it's used responsibly to promote dialogue and understanding rather than division and fear.
Exactly. And let's not forget the potential of technology. While social media can be a breeding ground for hate speech and misinformation, it can also be a powerful tool for peace building. Our source talks about using social media platforms to spread messages of peace and harmony, to counter hate speech, and to connect people from different communities.
So it's about reclaiming the digital space and using it as a platform for positive social change. It sounds like there are a lot of moving parts here. It's encouraging to see so many different approaches being explored, but I'm also wondering what happens after the violence subsides. What are the steps involved in rebuilding trust and preventing future outbreaks?
Yeah, that's a really important question. We've talked about preventing violence before it erupts and managing it when it occurs, but what about the aftermath? How do we heal those wounds and prevent the cycle from repeating itself?
Right, it's like, okay, we put out the fire, but what about all the damage? And how do we make sure it doesn't happen again?
That's where the focus shifts to reconciliation and rebuilding trust. Our source, communal violence, causes, legal provisions, and preventative measures, emphasizes that post-violence measures are just as crucial as the preventative ones.
So it's not just about putting out the fire, but also, addressing the damage and preventing future sparks.
Precisely. Think of it like treating a wound. You need to clean it, bandage it, and give it time to heal. Similarly, after an outbreak of communal violence, we need to address the immediate needs of the victims, provide them with support, and work towards healing the social fabric that's been torn apart.
Okay, so what are some concrete steps that can be taken to achieve that?
One crucial step is ensuring swift and fair justice. Our source highlights the importance of fast-track courts to expedite trials and hold perpetrators accountable. Justice delayed is justice denied, and a slow or inefficient legal process can erode public trust and fuel a sense of impunity.
It's about demonstrating that the law applies equally to everyone, regardless of their background or beliefs.
Exactly. And justice isn't just about punishment, it's also about rehabilitation. We need to create opportunities for those who have been involved in violence to understand the impact of their actions, to develop empathy for the other side, and to reintegrate into society as responsible citizens.
That sounds challenging, but also incredibly important. It's about breaking the cycle of violence and offering a path towards redemption.
Absolutely. And then there's the critical task of providing relief and rehabilitation to the victims. This includes medical care, psychological support, and financial assistance to help them rebuild their lives. It's about acknowledging their suffering and offering them tangible support to move forward.
So it's about meeting their immediate needs, but also addressing the long-term trauma and the socioeconomic impact of the violence.
Precisely. We need to remember that the impact of communal violence goes far beyond physical injuries. It can shatter families, disrupt livelihoods, and leave deep psychological scars that can take years to heal. Providing comprehensive support is crucial, not just for individual healing, but also for community recovery.
Our source also mentions the importance of continuous monitoring, even after the immediate crisis has passed. Why is that?
It's about vigilance. Communal tensions can simmer beneath the surface even after an outbreak has been contained. Monitoring helps identify potential triggers like inflammatory speeches or rumors and allows authorities to intervene early before they escalate into violence. Think of it as taking the temperature of the community and responding proactively to any signs of trouble.
So it's about staying alert, identifying potential flashpoints, and addressing them before they ignite.
Exactly. And it's not just the responsibility of the authorities. Community members can also play a vital role. They're often the first to notice changes in the social climate or detect early warning signs of potential conflict. Encouraging community members to report suspicious activity or share information can help prevent violence before it erupts.
It's about fostering a sense of shared responsibility for peace and security.
Absolutely. And then there's the task of rebuilding trust. This is perhaps the most challenging aspect of post-violence recovery. Communal violence can shatter trust between communities, leaving behind suspicion, fear, and resentment. Rebuilding that trust takes time, patience, and a genuine commitment from all sides.
So what are some ways to bridge that divide and foster reconciliation?
Our source highlights the importance of interfaith dialogue and peace-building initiatives. Imagine bringing together community leaders, religious figures, and even ordinary citizens from different backgrounds to engage in open and honest conversations. These dialogues can help dispel misconceptions, address grievances, and find common ground.
It's about creating spaces for understanding and empathy, where people can see each other as human beings rather than just members of different groups.
Exactly. And sometimes it's the small gestures that can have the biggest impact. Imagine organizing joint community events like cultural festivals or sporting events where people from different backgrounds can interact and build relationships. These shared experiences can help break down barriers and foster a sense of community.
It's about creating opportunities for positive interactions that can chip away at the walls of prejudice and mistrust.
And let's not forget the role of the arts. Music theater and even street art can be powerful tools for healing and reconciliation. Imagine a play that explores the complexities of communal violence or a mural that celebrates the shared heritage of different communities. Art can touch hearts and minds in ways that words sometimes cannot.
It's about using creativity to express emotions, promote dialogue, and inspire hope for a better future.
Absolutely. Post-violence recovery is a long and complex process. It requires sustained effort, collaboration, and a commitment to addressing the root causes of conflict. But it's also a journey of hope. It's about recognizing our shared humanity, learning from the mistakes of the past, and working together to build a more just and peaceful future.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. It's given us a lot to think about. We've explored the causes, the laws, the preventative measures, and the post-violence strategies. But perhaps the biggest takeaway is that communal violence is not inevitable. It's a complex problem, but it's one that we can address if we work together with understanding empathy and a commitment to building a more inclusive and harmonious society.
I couldn't agree more. We all have a role to play in promoting peace and understanding. Whether it's challenging prejudice, engaging in dialogue, or supporting initiatives that foster social harmony, every action counts. Let's remember that peace is not just the absence of violence, it's a continuous process of building bridges, fostering trust, and working together towards a future where everyone feels safe and respected.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it sparked some reflection and inspired you to be part of the solution. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future episodes. Until next time, stay curious and stay engaged.